Sick and tired of your love-hate relationship with wine?
Welcome to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. Hi, I'm Coach Ruby Williams.
And I'm Coach Susan Larkin.
We're two former wine lovers turned alcohol freedom coaches, exposing the lies about alcohol.
And giving you, our listeners, the tools to break free so you can feel lit.
And when you're lit, you'll feel healthier, freer, and more in control of your life.
So relax, kick back, and get ready to feel lit alcohol-free.
And don't forget, grab a copy of our wine-free weekend guide after the show.
Welcome back to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. I'm Coach Susan, and I'm here with my amazing co-host, Ruby Williams. And
hello.
We are so excited to be here. When we get together, and talk before we start an episode, we just start to go, oh my God, we just love this so much. This is such a labor of love for us.
Truly.
To really come together and talk about this, questions that we get in our Facebook group. And when people join, we have a little questionnaire. And this question came from a new member in the last couple of months that, added this question on the member questionnaire. And we are really excited to answer this question today because it's really an important one. I think, gosh, I just feel really, privileged to be able to address this because it's the thing that it can keep people stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and read the question and then we will dive right in. So today's question is, it's been 2 years since I've quit drinking and I can't stop thinking about it and starting again. Talking myself into how I can start again, and I'm afraid, mostly sad, will this ever go away? I don't want to be obsessed with this anymore. It just is hurts my heart because I know where this person's coming from because I've felt this way before. How about you, Ruby?
Exactly. It's like on my heart right now and I'm feeling it. And this is so, I want you, the listener, the Facebook group person, we know who you are. We're not going to say your name. I just want you to know that this is so common. And I hear this all the time, especially with people that have gone through AA and all the reasons why you drink and really turned them around. We're going to go into our methodology later, but it's like this, you're white knuckling. That's the phrase that I hear all the time. People are just, they want it. They're out. They always want it. They always are obsessed. And I actually want to just say really quick that true freedom to me is getting rid of that obsession. That to me, when I say I'm alcohol free or alcohol freedom, to me, it's that obsession and that thinking about it all the time. So I really, really, really relate. I guess I'm going to share, we start usually with our stories and I want to share that, and I'll be honest, I haven't shared this with anybody except for I shared it with Annie Grace, but I haven't shared it out in the world yet. So when I was in AA, so the first real time I tried to get alcohol free, I went through AA, which a lot of people do because that's all I knew. I mean, there's AA, rehab, or do it on your own. I didn't know there was all these communities and coaches, and this was all new. But so I was about 6 months alcohol free, and I was doing the steps, and I had a sponsor, and I was going to all the meetings, and I loved the fellowship, which is what they call the community and the connection with people, especially the women's groups, and they were my people right at that time. And then I don't know if you remember, but back in 2000, it happened in 2017, then it happened in 2019, and then I think it happened again in 2020 or 2021. We've had fires in my area in Sonoma County, and it was pretty traumatic.
Terrible.
So I went, it was terrible. Thousands and hundreds of homes were, and so in 2017 I was drinking, and then in 2019 I was at my 6 month alcohol free, but I had so much PTSD from the first fire where they literally tell everyone, pack up your car. You've right now. What are you going to bring? Like if your whole house burns down, like, so you pack up your car and you grab your loved ones and your pets. And it was so traumatic. So then when I got to the second time this happened, I was alcohol free for 6 months, but I hadn't slept the night before. All this like trauma, and I couldn't find anywhere to stay. That was kind of like I asked friends, I asked family. Picture this, the entire county had to be evacuated. So all the people that I knew, I couldn't go stay with them because they were also evacuated. It was crazy time, crazy, cray. But what happened was I ended up staying with my aunt who drinks. And like I walked into the front door like literally exhausted, like at my last like wire or whatever the phrase is. But like she just said, why don't you have a drink? Like that was her first words. And it just happened. But the thing is it was so interesting. My reward center of the brain like lit up. I left her house and went and got a bottle of wine. It was so crazy. It just spiraled like that within minutes. Like it felt like within hours, I was already back to my old self, which was so weird. But the point is there was all this shame around it. And I didn't tell my sponsor. I didn't tell the group. And I had to I just said to myself, I said, I'm going to pretend it didn't happen. I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. What happened, so I did. I went very next day back on my alcohol-free journey. But then I felt like a liar because I was lying to everyone. When you in AA, you go up and you get your month chip. And I would go up and get my chip and be like, I didn't, but what's so fascinating, you guys? So instead of living with like this, I had a relapse and I didn't tell anybody and I was lying. When I discovered this naked mind methodology, it's so much grace and compassion and like I had a data point is what I did. I have rewritten my story it's just a data point. It doesn't mean anything. I can still say I'm 5 years alcohol free, which I am with one data point, or I don't even talk about like it happened for a reason. I was that stressed and burned out and freaked out with the fire, and it just happened. And it's not a big deal. And I'm still 99.99999% alcohol free, or if you want to go like, so anyway, I just want to say that I really relate to you. And I was finally able to share my story about that. And anyway, Susan, sorry I've taken up so much time, but will you share your story? Yeah.
Well, I think that's fascinating, and it hurts my heart to even think of you going through that. And I went through the same thing earlier, though. I had a span of 5 years between my AA experience and finding this naked mind, but I had a very similar experience, and my drinking wasn't even around a catastrophic event. I just decided I was going to drink because it was a Christmas party and I wanted to drink,
Yeah,
and
I hear that all the time. Yeah.
It was like, I'm just going to have a little, and then same thing, it lights up your pleasure center. And then you just feel the obsession kicking in of like, more. Is anybody noticing that I'm keep going back and getting more? Or then you want more on your way home. Like, let's stop by the liquor store and get more, even though I'm, because I stuck to what I said I was going to do at the party, which was whatever, 2 drinks. But then once you're alone, it's like exactly same with you, same thing as you. Went and got a bottle, and but I did tell my sponsor. At that point, I was, let's see, June, July, August, September, October, December. Oh, 6 months. Interesting.
I do think there might be something to 6 months, but anyway. Yeah.
So I did tell my sponsor, but then I still had the same shame. You have to do the walk of shame. You have to tell, everybody goes around and says how many days they have, and now you're back to 1 or 0 or whatever. And it was just so, and I already have a shame, I already had a shame cloud about, my drinking and just me in general, like a big shame response. It was shame, which is different than guilt is, guilt is I did something wrong. Shame is I am something wrong. And I already,
it was shame
going for me in other areas of my life. So it just, that shame, just followed me around. So, and what we've discovered, both of us are this Naked Mind trained coaches, and what we discovered, both of us went through the programs to become liberated, is that, and this Naked Mind really illustrates this so well, is that it takes you on this journey from asleep to alive. So at asleep, you're just not aware you even have a problem. You're just drinking and no problems. Then you're aware. Aware is the worst. Okay, that's where you know you have a problem and you can't do anything about it yet. I'm going to say yet. But you are conscious that there's a problem, but you are not capable. So you're conscious and incapable. And then you move in the Naked Mind.
Can I segue really quick that the average that people stay in aware is 7 years.
Painful place.
It's a painful place, and people stay there for. I was there for probably 7 years. Yeah.
So let's see. If I started my journey in 2020, and mine was 5 between AA and this Naked Mind of being aware and trying to work on it, etc. So you go from sleep where you don't think you're just oblivious.
I'm a normal drinker.
Bliss.
Yeah.
And then you go to aware, like, oh, I might have a problem here. And then you're in that negotiating. And then you go to awake, which is you have some tools, or even if it's white knuckling, willpower, let's say. But in this Naked Mind, we teach you other tools. So you don't have to be white knuckling, but you're aware, you are awake to some ways of staying alcohol free or sober, but it takes a lot of effort. So you're capable with effort, and you're aware,
and it's awkward,
conscious, awkward,
and you're feeling the feelings that
So it's still, sometimes you feel really good, and sometimes it's the messy middle is what I call it. Like, it's this, and everyone's like, and I work with clients and they're like, well, how long is a messy middle? I'm like, well, depends on how fast we do this work. It takes what it takes. And then the next stage is alive. And the reason why I chose to go through This Naked Mind program at the time in 2020 was when I heard a webinar with Annie Grace, and she talked about being alive. And I was like, that is what I want. I want to feel alive, because I didn't feel alive. And I didn't feel alive the time before when I tried to get alcohol free with AA. So I was like, that's what I want. And that was my goal. That was my emotion-based goal. And
And freedom from the obsession, right, is alive too.
It's alive. Yeah.
And feeling lit, like the name of our podcast, feeling lit is feeling alive, right, Susan?
Yes. And so that's what we do with our clients. And the process of doing that is this methodology, is deconstruct, is finding those hidden beliefs. So I would say, going back to the question, is to this listener's question, is how much are they using willpower? And if they're still obsessed, then they must have some lingering beliefs, whether they're conscious of them or not. They're in their subconscious. This programming that we have around alcohol in our culture, in society, about ourself, about the substance, all Italians drink wine with dinner, so that's weird that you don't drink wine, or you must drink red wine when you have a steak. That would be about the substance. The society is that, if you don't drink, then you must be an alcoholic, or all those messages. And then self is, I need this to relax. I'm not fun without alcohol. How am I going to have sex, and loosen up without, it's all these selfie things. Or even more subversive, it could be from old trauma where I'm not safe and alcohol is my escape, and I need that escape. I need a place to escape this pain that may come up from a trigger. And so a lot of this is just digging down there,
we dig deep.
We get out our shovels,
and then we're like, are you sure? Are you coaching? We just keep we uncover so many beliefs, and that are unconscious or subconscious, because you might say, oh, I know I want to quit alcohol, and I get it, everything, but why am I still drinking? And that's exactly what we help you with. Yeah.
Or why do I still have what we call data points? And to even flip from the shame of the data point, to flip it is, the data points are when you drink when you didn't intend to. It's a clue but there's still a hidden belief there. And if you just like to your, when you just wanted to ignore it, which is totally understandable because at that time you didn't have this training, is to ignore, then you're just pushing it down again and it's going to pop back up. So we want to dig in. How we want to dig in with our magnifying glass, but we want to do it in a grace-filled way of like, hey, I did this, and I'm going to get all the data out of it so that I make sure it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
That's a totally different attitude about it than, oh my God, I can't believe I drank. I suck. What is wrong with me? There's something wrong with me. Why can't I get this? Da, 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 da. That's what I would, say to myself. If I had a data point, I was, had a black belt in beating myself up. That was just a habit. Like and a lot of times we think we have to whip ourselves into shape, right? And that is furthest from the truth. I mean, you think that that's what's going to work, and it's completely counterintuitive to have self-compassion and kindness, but that's the secret sauce, really, is grace and compassion.
It truly is.
Because it allows you to dig in and go, okay, what's happening here in my subconscious? Why do I feel like I'm reaching for this tool of alcohol? And then what are other ways I can meet this need without alcohol? And that's truly what we talk about on our podcast when we go into the feel lit section. I mean, it's not just like, hey, these are fun things. It's actually resources to help you feel good in your alcohol free life that is going to help you stay alcohol free. So yeah. What are your thoughts about this, Ruby?
Well, I keep going back to the question so I can see the question here. And it's just, it's also about thoughts and feelings are temporary, and it's okay to have sad feelings too. Like, and it's okay to have thoughts of drinking. Like, but the way I read this question, it's like, it's obsession. But what if it's just normal to have these thoughts and feelings? And it's like, I love this kind of imagery of like a cloud thought comes, you're out to a party, everybody else appears to be drinking, and you have a thought, and it doesn't have to mean as much as, that the word obsession is quite a strong word. And I use that same word too when I was drinking, but now it seems things are just a little lighter. Like I can't say more about like data points. And like, you could take it to the end too. You could go, well, what if I did have a data point? It would actually only mean that you have something else to learn. And it doesn't have to mean relapse. I failed. I have to start over. I have a day one again. And all of my coaching, it's about, okay, well, that happened. That's okay. Let's have compassion for that person. It just happened. Old neural pathway, and you allow it happened. And then you just kind of go, well, what can I learn from it? And then I have a whole list of like questions to like dig in. What were you feeling? What was the circumstance? What were your thoughts? What are your beliefs? And then I uncover, with our clients, we uncover like a belief, an underlying belief. And you know what happens? Almost everyone, I've seen thousands and thousands of people. It's like the real deep tree trunk, big belief. There's lots of thoughts like leaves and branches, like other beliefs. But the big belief is oftentimes like, I am not worthy, or I'm not unlovable. So oftentimes this becomes a journey of empowerment. So once you become completely empowered to love yourself and know that you're worthy, you won't want to put toxins into your body, and you won't be obsessed if you start working on all of these different beliefs. And data points are actually the key, right? Right, Susan? They actually are the key. It's like an arrow, like a big arrow going, here's the problem. We got to work on this a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah. They're the clues.
Yeah.
They're, even if you don't have a data point, if you have the feelings. So like people go, oh, I went to this party and I had the urge to drink. What? I'm so mad at myself. And I'm like, why? This is a clue.
Yeah.
So your feelings, of course, your brain is like a computer and it says, oh, when we go to parties, we drink. So naturally it's going to come up. So I'm like, so when you can face it like that of like, oh yeah, of course I'm going to have this thought because I always drank at parties and now I'm not drinking at parties, but my brain is going to be like, don't we normally drink at parties?
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's just going to bring it up. But you don't have to act on it. And then there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you that you had the thought. And then it's like, okay, but let's dig in. You know, where is there a hidden belief there? And so they're just clues. In fact, bring on the clues. You want to know. We want to unearth these. So in some ways, can you even change your emotions around having a urge to drink or a thought to drink to be like, oh, good. Here's a new clue.
Curious.
Putting that
Curiosity. Yeah, we that's one of our pillars. You know, awareness. You're aware of the thought, aware of the feeling, and then curious. Why am I having that thought? Why am I having that feeling? And but to get to lasting change, which is what this listener really wants, and that's what we're hearing. Like the underlying thing, she wants this like lasting change, not obsessed. And there's two ways. I'm going to talk about emotion-based goals, and then you were going to talk about positive emotion. But I'll talk about emotion-based goals first. It's not about like just eliminating the alcohol. It's about how do you want to feel? When you really live your life towards what we call these emotion-based goals, where you want to feel freedom or you want to feel healthy, you want to feel energized, then so I keep bringing this up with clients because that is what helps lasting change rather than it's not what you're going to give up. It's what you're going to gain, right? It's so important to understand this concept. How, like life, alcohol free and living alive, like you said, that last stage where it's just unconscious, you're capable of doing it. You have all these other tools, which I'm going to do a tool later. But all right, Susan, you want to talk about what you were coming up with? Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like I explained in the beginning, becoming alive was my emotion-based goal. I was like, I want that. And that's what made it so different from this was not my first rodeo either, or my first program. But it made all the difference because I was like, I'm going for this. I want to feel alive and I'm going to do everything I can towards that goal. And that just made it so different than, I guess I'm not going to drink, you know what I mean?
Right.
And this Naked Mind methodology, which is affective liminal psychology, that is the process. And it's a process of unearthing those subconscious beliefs and deconstructing them. And the deconstruction process is about getting new information. So like the new science. So say, for example, I used alcohol to de-stress and I believed, I needed it to de-stress. So then when you think about not drinking, you're like, well, how am I going to deal with stress?
Yeah.
But then when I learned the science that actually alcohol creates more stress hormones in my body. So that's just not true. Alcohol doesn't help you de-stress. It actually causes more stress. So that's new information. But then I need to practice that new information because I have a lot of old neural pathways that still said, well, it still helps you de-stress. And so I had to practice. So it's repetition of the new mindset experience. So, experiencing bodily experience of, okay, using new tools like we talk about here. And Ruby's going to share a tool to deal with stress instead of alcohol. So that repetition, and then the linchpin or secret sauce is positive emotion, or what Annie likes to say is resourceful emotion, because sometimes using positive emotion can kind of flip us into this toxic positivity. And then people are like, well, I don't feel that positive. But do you feel determined? I was really determined,
committed,
determined, angry. Anger can be a very resourceful emotion, because once I learned a lot about how the alcohol industry markets wine to us and how they, perpetuate it to make it romantic, and it's so ingrained in our culture, and a lot of the information about the health risks around alcohol are just sort of shoved down to the bottom because of the huge alcohol lobby. I just got pissed off. And so for like 2 months, I was just like,
it's still fueling me. Susan, that anger, I used it to good. So anger can be used to good. And in that exact example, I worked in the wine industry and I was so angry. Like I'm still so, and when I say it, but it's a good because it got me to be an alcohol freedom coach. I am so committed to being alcohol free and helping others. Like I think, yeah. But one I use a lot is like high-fiving myself in the mirror. I love that. You know, that kind of positive emotion. Like you go girl. You could do this, Ruby.
Mine was similar, but it was also like a deep relief and I don't even know what the word is, but I could look myself in the eye and just like, oh my gosh, I finally can look myself in the eye and not be saying, you're such a jerk. You're an idiot. You're so stupid. How could you possibly be doing this? I couldn't even meet myself in the eye when I'd
Me
wash
too.
my face. Or if I did, it was, okay, you suck, you know? And when you could finally, like, I started looking myself in the eye and saying, hey, lady, I got your back.
Yeah.
We're doing this for us.
And I trust you finally.
Yeah.
And you're looking better. You know, you get 2 weeks alcohol free, you start to be less puffy and you start to look better, feel better. Your eyes from bloodshot or, you know, when I was drinking in the circles, it disappeared. And then the whites of my eyes got so clear. And yeah, it's really.
And that's the repetition too. It's like looking yourself in the eye and going, oh my gosh, yes, I do look better. And really practicing those new thoughts, practicing this new awareness. And that's where it's so active. And so it's not just about new information. It's also practicing the new information that we are gaining and the new bodily like experience, somatic experience that we're experiencing. And just sort of turning up the volume on that. So I'm always telling people, write a sticky note. If we've, if I'm working with a client and they're like, alcohol used to be my friend when I'd feel lonely, da, 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 da. And then we do a turnaround and we I call it poking holes in that. Is alcohol really your friend? And we kind of work through that. And then they'd be like, no, alcohol's not my friend. Alcohol's my enemy. And I'm like, okay. Write that on a sticky note, put it on your mirror and read it every day because that's a new thought.
Alcohol's your enemy. Yeah, you
and
keep
we need
saying
to ingrain that thought because we have the old thought has a neural pathway. Thoughts are things, they create neural pathways in our brain. And so that old one's grooved. We need to groove the new one of the new reality, the new truth that is true for you now that we've kind of deconstructed that. We need to practice it. So everybody's like, oh, she's the sticky note queen. And I'm like, I got them right here. Yes. I'm always telling people, write it on a sticky note and put it on your mirror.
Yeah.
Say it. So, yeah, I mean, I think both of us are like just so emphatic about this because we want people to be free. That is why I became a coach.
Yes. We both said we want to help this person so much because I know what that feels like to be in that obsession place. And you can be there for forever until you actually do this kind of work where you find true freedom. You live alive. You feel lit, you know? Yeah. So, yeah.
So, yes. Well, so Ruby, why don't you take us through something that will help us feel lit? So that's something that can help us in our alcohol-free journey. And this is why, again, we do this Feel Lit section because these are resources that help you feel good in your body, in your mind, and are tools you can use instead of drinking when you're triggered and feel like drinking. And that is the practicing these things, finding the tools that work for you and practicing them over and over again. Not only when you're in distress, but just as like, oh, I'm going to try this tool and I'm going to try it every day till it becomes a tool that's as ingrained as grabbing a bottle of wine. Because I always say, if you don't practice it and you pull your tool out and you're like, well, how the hell do I use this? And you just throw it away and grab the bottle because that's the one you're used to using. So we need to practice the new tools, right?
Yeah. And if feeling lit is what your alive goal was, where you wanted to feel alive, like that is how Susan wants to feel. That's how I want to feel. That's how we just want to feel better or feel alive or feel free or feel healthy or feel energized. So what can we do? So yeah, I have a grounding technique. I'm going to talk about grounding. Grounding to me is so key. I mean, we had talked about earthing many months ago in the beginning, and earthing's cool too. That's a type of grounding, right? To actually use the ground. But there's a grounding technique that you can use anytime, anywhere. And I'm going to walk you through it. It's called the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. So it's 5 things you can see. So what you do is you start to feel, I don't know, maybe it's anxiety or sadness or anything that you're not feeling lit on. You're not feeling great. So you're feeling, what we like to say is below 50% is another kind of phrase we use, but you can ground yourself in the moment, in your senses. So 5 things that you can see. You want to just breathe calmly, but you're going to have your eyes open for this part, because you're going to look, you're going to go, okay, maybe you're experiencing like your heart racing, sweaty palms, something like, I'm going to give an anxiety example. So you go, okay, there's a wall, there's a lamp, there's my computer, there's my glass of water. It's 5 things you can see, and really take in each item with your eyes. Then you're going to do 4. So we did 5. Now 4, it's 4 things you can touch. Touch the chair or couch you're sitting on. Touch your clothing. You can touch yourself. You can even do a little havening. Like you can touch, right? Then it's 3 things that you can hear. And just you're going to pay attention. Get quiet. Maybe you hear birds chirping. Maybe you hear, I don't know, the fabric moving on your clothing. Maybe you hear the sound of your own breath, or a sound of a refrigerator or a heater or air conditioner, some sound in the house, or cars driving by. Next, you're going to do 2 things you smell. And what do you smell? And what, maybe it's a candle, or your own perfume, or your own scent. Maybe you have an animal by and you're like, there's my dog. I can smell him. I don't know. Or you could also use this as a time to imagine your favorite scent. You can go, I love the scent of vanilla or citrus, but what can you smell? And then it's 1 thing you can taste. So just what's on your tongue? What are you tasting? For me, I'm drinking some coffee this morning, so I'm tasting coffee, but it could have been the last bite of food you had, or maybe gum or something, or toothpaste if it's early in the morning. So this exercise just really helps ground you and anchor you in the present moment, and it engages your senses. And you can give it a try anytime. You can be on the subway. You can be, you can actually be driving or something, as long as you don't close your eyes. But you could use this 5-4-3-2-1 at any time, any day, at work, anywhere. No one has to even know what you're doing, thinking. I was just doing it with you when you just led us through it. So yeah, it was great. Cool. So you can come back to this and listen to this. This is the very end of our episode, at around, 30 minutes or whatever. At the end of the episode, you can come back and listen to this a couple of different times until you've got it. It's 5 things you see, 4 things you touch, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. 5-4-3-2-1. Okay?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I love it when I've eaten chocolate, and that's the thing I taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that's so good, Ruby. So good. Well, this question from a listener was so impactful to me anyway. And I was just thrilled to be able to really talk about this, because I think it gets right to the core of why we became coaches, is to help people feel this freedom and not be stuck in this obsession, in the fixation mode, and to help people reach liberation or that alive stage. So I'm so thankful that this listener and Facebook member brought this question to us. And I would love, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, for you to join us, because we have a lot of fun over there and we share resources, and we have a really great group who are super supportive of each other. And we have people getting sober in that space and, posting their days and saying that listening to the podcast is helping them. So really encourage you, if you haven't joined yet, that you would hop over there and join. There's a link in the show notes, and
And we have some really great episodes coming up around Thanksgiving and Christmas and the holidays and New Year's Eve. And maybe some special surprise guests. We will let you know. You have to listen in.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Well, have a wonderful, wonderful day and feel it.
Feel it, alcohol free.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Feel It Alcohol Free Podcast. Do you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show?
All you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do two simple things. Leave a rating and review telling us what you think of the show. And in that review, ask us any questions you have about breaking free from wine or living an alcohol-free lifestyle.
That's it. Then tune in to hear your question answered live. Don't forget to grab your copy of A Wine-Free Weekend at www.feelitpodcasts.com.
And remember, do something today that will help you feel lit.
See you next time.